Q and Review, celebrating 40 years of audio production, welcomes you to this week's edition of the Glasgow Times Sports Podcast, recorded from our studio in the Bishopbriggs Media Centre and by our volunteers working from home. Keep up to date with Q and Review news via our Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, or Instagram at Q and Review. That's @CUEANDREVIEW, or get in touch with us directly by emailing information@qandreview.com. That's INFORMATION @CUEANDREVIEW.com, or by calling us on 0141 772 3979. Please like and share our podcast and give us constructive feedback.
Evening Times Sport, August 6. Brighton readying record-breaking O'Reilly offer. Report by David Irvin. Brighton are reportedly ready to smash the Scottish transfer record in their pursuit of Celtic star Matt O'Reilly. It emerged last night Brighton had opened talks with Celtic over a possible summer swoop for the 23-year-old midfielder. Atalanta have had 3 bids for O'Reilly knocked back this summer, but it is claimed Brighton could spend big to land the player. Similarly, Southampton had an approach thrown out. Brendan Rodgers remains keen to keep the player at Celtic for the season ahead, and insisted offers to this point have not been close to the valuation placed on the player. It is thought Celtic will hold out for a record fee before any deal for O'Reilly to leave the club is sanctioned. Currently, the Scottish transfer record stands at £25 million after Kieran Tierney joined Arsenal from Celtic back in 2019, and the same fee was received for Jota in 2023. The Scottish Sun, though, state Brighton plan to place a bid worth £25 million plus for O'Reilly. Further discussions between the club will reportedly be held in the coming days to attempt to thrash out a transfer agreement. O'Reilly played the full match against Kilmarnock in a 4-0 win in the Scottish Premiership opening weekend. Rodgers said of transfer speculation surrounding O'Reilly on Sunday, "We are quite calm on that. Yes, there's been offers for him, but nowhere near the valuation of the player. He's just continuing to work every day, and like I said, he understands where it is at. But if you see his performance level all the way through pre-season, he's very focused on helping the team, very focused on improving as a player, and he knows he's in a great place to do that. Until that changes, we will continue to work with Matt to help improve his game." Report by David Irvin. Evening Times Sport, August 6. Former Celtic kid set for Liverpool loan exit. Report by Ewan Payton. Top Scotland prospect Ben Doak looks set to leave Liverpool on loan this summer, according to reports. The 18-year-old has had a handful of first-team appearances under his belt for the Reds, but it seems Arne Slot will allow the teenager to gain some more vital minutes to aid in his development. The former Celtic kid burst onto the scene in the Cup competitions last season, while he also earned a substitute outing in the Premier League against Aston Villa. The Ayrshire lad was called into Steve Clarke's Scotland squad for Euro 2024 this summer, but he later had to withdraw through injury. Football Scotland says Liverpool will allow him to gain more first-team experience on loan away from Anfield this season. Among the interested clubs are Premier League sides Southampton, Leicester City and Brentford. Doak left Celtic in 2022 after making his Scottish Premiership debut against Rangers, aged just 16. A decision has yet to be made by Doak and his camp about his future in the year ahead, but it is increasingly likely he will not be featuring for Liverpool. Meanwhile, Brighton have entered talks with Celtic over a deal for Matt O'Reilly, according to a report. Evening Times Sport, August 6. Nick Rodger points out that golf enjoys an Olympic showdown that money cannot buy. Loyal readers of this column, I continue to be in awe of your enduring powers of stoicism, by the way, will know that I do like a national observance. There was one Tuesday, for instance, when these back-page musings and meanderings appeared on World Tripe Day, which was all wonderfully fitting. Try telling that, though, to the brassed-off folk at the Tripe Marketing Board, who sent me a strongly worded letter informing me that this tenuous association with my weekly witterings brought terrible publicity to the edible stomach linings of various ruminant animals. You may be intrigued to know that we're now in the merry midst of International Clown Week. It lasts the whole bloody year with you, grimaced the sports editor, as he stubbed his toe on his golf writer's comedic, oversized shoes. In the big top of fun that is the Olympics, meanwhile, golf is savouring another cracking day. Yes, I know many of you probably joined the legions that were groaning about the lack of coverage on the BBC. In a nutshell, Warner Brothers Discovery, WBD, bought the Olympic rights back in 2015, and the old Beeb cannot afford everything, hence the dippings in and out. But if you did catch it, then it was quite a treat. Let's face it, there's been a lot that's turned people off men's professional golf over the last couple of years. The greed, the entitlement, the petty bickerings, the prolonged palavers about framework agreements, and frankly, yawn-inducing updates from subcommittees. Golf itself has been a mucky, four-letter word. The Olympic event is hardly a break from the norm. It's still a staple 72-hole stroke play competition after all, but it provided a refreshing change. It was all about pure competition, if you can say that about the Olympics these days. I'd better check the IOC terms and conditions on that one. Apparently you still can. Just. Anyway, the Paris 2024 golf showpiece felt memorable and meaningful, not money-driven. It was a thrilling spectacle jam-packed with storylines as a world-class fight for supremacy unfolded at a boisterous Le Golf National. The brilliant Scottish Scheffler captured gold, but in many ways, golf had captured hearts and minds. Scheffler, the world number one, was reduced to tears as the medal was draped around his neck after he produced a 62 on the final day to deny the gallant Tommy Fleetwood, who took silver at the end of a week in which appalling atrocities had visited his hometown of Southport. Scheffler has amassed something like $28 million on the PGA Tour this season, but standing on top of the podium made him sob. Or maybe it was because he'd earned only $37,500, the amount the United States Olympic Committee pay all gold medal winners. I'm kidding. That medal is clearly worth its weight in gold, if you know what for golf's dominant figure. This was about pride and passion, not personal gain. A crestfallen John Ram walked away with nought, having been in command. Rory McIlroy mounted a charge, then infuriatingly found water out of nowhere, while Frenchman Victor Perez generated the kind of racket that just about shuggled the girders on the Eiffel Tower with a rousing 63 that left him one shot shy of a medal. Then there was the tale of Tom Kim, who needed a win to get a GOG to avoid a stint of national service with the South Korean army. Can you remember as a young one when you used to stand over a putt and whisper, "This for the Open"? Imagine hovering over a knee knocker and muttering, "This to avoid 21 months of mandatory military training." That would focus the golfing mind. In the aftermath of it all, McIlroy made a telling admission. "I still think that the Ryder Cup is the best tournament in our game. It's pure competition," said the Northern Irishman, whose ruinous plunge into the water with a short iron on the 15th scuppered his hopes of nabbing a place on the podium. And he continued, "I think this, the Olympics, has the potential to be right up there with it. With how much of a shit show the game of golf is right now, the two tournaments that might be the purest form of competition in our sport, we don't play for money. So it speaks volumes for what's important in sport. I think every single player this week has had an amazing experience." Golf did not need the Olympics, but being part of it is certainly no bad thing. In many nations, Olympic status generates government funding for vital development. Yes, it's easy to be cynical, but it's important to embrace the wider value of golf's presence at the Games, even though it will take time for that significance to be truly measured. I feel like only 2% of Chile know what the PGA Tour or LIV golf is, suggested Chilean standard-bearer Joaquin Niemann last week. The other 98%, probably 100%, all know what the Olympics are. The world's best female players who embraced the Olympic spirit far more readily than their male counterparts when golf returned to the Games at Rio in 2016, get their chance to shine again this week. The men's event will take some beating, but the good ladies will be hoping to conjure another Olympic Sunday that money just cannot buy, says Nick Roger. Evening Times Sport, August 7. Celtic issue stock market with huge financial update. Report by James McLaughlin. Celtic have reported they are on course for significantly higher earnings than previously expected when they released their financial results in September. The news comes under a year since they hit record £119.9 million revenues and announced they have cash holdings of £72.3 million. And the good news keeps on coming for Celtic money men, with Matt O'Reilly attracting interest that will likely see him become Scottish football's record sale, as well as an automatic place in the new incarnation of the Champions League, which could earn the club as much as £60 million. In a statement to the London Stock Exchange, they stated, Celtic have enjoyed a strong on-pitch performance in the 23-24 football season, having won the domestic double. In addition, it has enjoyed a successful year in generating gains from player trading. As a result of such gains, and a strong end to the season from a footballing perspective, Celtic now expects earnings for the year ending 30 June 2024 will be significantly higher than previous expectations, which were formed before the conclusion of the season and prior to certain player disposals. Player registration valuations and player trading can, and often do, materially influence Celtic's financial performance in addition to trading revenue. The summer transfer window is underway, and following the closure of the window and the finalisation of the year-end balance sheet review, the club will then be in a position to confirm the extent of its earnings by publishing its results for the year ended 30 June 2024, in line with its usual timetable in mid-September 2024. Report by James McLaughlin. Evening Times Sport, August 7. Glasgow Warriors and Edinburgh Rugby expand pro academies. Report by Ewan Payton. Glasgow Warriors and Edinburgh Rugby have announced the expansion of their respective professional academies. Both of Scotland's senior rugby union teams have confirmed a fresh intake of players for the 2024-25 season. Starting with the latter, Edinburgh's Academy of Promising Players has increased from the previous system of 15 Stage 3 Academy players to a larger group, which currently sits at 23, but may expand further, and includes several players who will train with both the Academy and senior sides through the upcoming campaign. And in line with the new Performance Player Pathway announcement from Scottish Rugby earlier this year, the expansion of the Pro Academy group will now include players up to the age of under 23. 13 of the Pro Academy roster have been retained by the Capital Club, including several players that featured in the Scotland squad during the recent World Rugby Under-20 trophy. Scotland Under-20 captain Liam McConnell in the back row continues in the Pro Academy after leading the age group side to the World Rugby Under-20 trophy at Hive Stadium earlier this month. Brothers Ollie, tight-head prop, and Jerry, Blythe Lafferty, hooker, have been playing in the pack alongside Ewan McVie, the lock, Tom Curry, back row, and Freddie Douglas, back row, all of whom will remain in the capital. In the backs, Hector Patterson, scrum half, and Jack Hawking, fullback, who both scored tries against Hong Kong, China, are also retained. Ollie Duncan, back row, Jack Brown, fullback, and Isaac Coates, fly half, will also continue in the Capital's Pro Academy setup. Harry Morris, hooker, and Mikey Jones, loosehead prop, are also included within the expanded Pro Academy, with Jones, Edinburgh Rugby's latest debutant after making his first pro appearance in last season's EPCR Challenge Cup round of 16 clash against Bayonne. 10 newcomers will form the rest of the expanded Pro Academy, with a full list of the Edinburgh Rugby's Pro Academy available on the club's website. Edinburgh Rugby head coach Sean Everett said, "I am incredibly excited about the expansion of our Pro Academy group. It is a testament to the talent coming through our system and a clear indication of our commitment to developing homegrown players. With a larger group, we have a fantastic opportunity to nurture these young players and prepare them for the challenges of professional rugby." The recent World Rugby Under-20 trophy showcased the potential of our young players. Many of them excelled on the international stage, and it is thrilling to see them return to Edinburgh with a hunger to develop further. This expanded Pro Academy group will provide them with the ideal environment to progress their careers. We are looking forward to giving our best young players more opportunities to shine by increasing the number of A-team fixtures this season. Playing against top-level opposition is an invaluable experience, and it will undoubtedly accelerate their development. This is an exciting time for Edinburgh Rugby, and we believe these young players will play a crucial role in our future success. For Warriors, a host of Scottish Rugby's brightest prospects set to train alongside the reigning BKT URC champions at Scotstoun. Included in the 26-man playing group are 8 players who helped Scotland Under-20 earn promotion back to the World Rugby Under-20 Championship earlier, including standout back rower Johnny Morris and tight head Callum Norrie. Kerr Yule and Ryan Burke similarly returned for a second successive season in the club's academy after helping their country to silverware this summer, as do fellow Under-20 starlets and 2023 Commonwealth Youth Games gold medalist Johnny Ventisey, Fergus Watson and Matthew Irwin. GHA product Amina Kakuzal, a prolific try scorer in the final season of the Fosrock Super Series, will look to build upon a promising first season at Scotstoun, as will fellow winger Kerr Johnston, who was invited to train with the senior Scotland setup prior to last autumn's Rugby World Cup. 8 further players are set to be involved in the Under-20 Academy cohort for the first time, including prop Jake Shearer, who came off the bench in Scotland's victory over the USA in the final of the World Rugby Under-20 trophy. Former Scotland Under-18 captain Joe Roberts and fellow front rower Ollie McKenna, comfortable at both loosehead prop and hooker, join Shearer in the intake, as do a brace of back rowers in the form of Archie McMichael and Rory Purvis. Dan Halcon will combine his academy duties with a business study degree at the University of Strathclyde, with Dumfries Saints centre Alex Bryden completing the first-year intake amongst the Under-20 group. Joining Morris and Norrie in the newly expanded Under-23 contingent are an additional 9 players, including Duncan Munn, who made his senior professional debut off the bench in Glasgow's 17-13 victory over Cardiff at Scotstoun back in March, to become Warrior number 360. Report by Ewan Payton. Evening Times Sport, August 7. Rangers kid called up by Scotland and USA. Report by David Evan. Rangers wonder kid Alexander Smith has been called up by Scotland and the USA. The 16-year-old midfielder has been selected for international duty with both countries due to his dual citizenship. Smith, who recently signed a 3-year professional deal at Rangers, has previously represented both nations in youth action. The teenager has been included in Brian McLaughlin's squad for Scotland under-17 fixtures against Qatar and Croatia. However, according to the Daily Record, he has also been listed as a squad player for the United States in their friendly against the Czech Republic. Smith is free to play for both nations until he receives his first full international cap. It is thought both countries want Smith to pledge his international allegiance to them, but will have to wait for a final decision. Highly rated Smith signed his first deal at Rangers despite speculation over a move to the MLS or a Premier League club. The midfielder was being tracked by a host of clubs while still on a youth deal at Ibrox. However, he penned a new deal after a contract was made a top priority for Philippe Clement and the Rangers board. Transfer specialist Fabrizio Romano previously stated, Rangers top prospect Alexander Smith close to agreeing first professional contract at the club, valid until June 2027, eligible for USA and Scotland national teams. Rangers fought off strong interest from Premier League and MLS to keep him, top priority for the board and Clement. Report by David Irvin. Evening Times Sport, August 7. Scottish Rugby launch new home kit. Report by Ewan Payton. Scottish Rugby has launched the new home kit that the Scottish national teams will wear for the 24-25 season. Alongside kit manufacturers Macron, the SRU has given fans a first glimpse at the new dark blue kit. Like all the kits produced by Macron, the new home kit is made exclusively from eco-fabric, a polyester material derived entirely from recycled post-consumer plastic. The new Scottish Rugby home shirt for the 24-25 season is in navy blue with a white polo neck and light green and blue details. The shirt features embossed graphics at the front and back, formed by vertical designs of claymores, the ancient two-handed swords used by the Scottish clans in the late medieval period. The word claymore comes from the Scottish Gaelic, which means large sword. The claymore represents a historic symbol of Scotland and the Scottish people's spirit, and was chosen by Scotland players as a symbol to represent the shared heritage on Scottish nation many years ago. Scottish Rugby's very own claymore will be displayed in the national team changing room, used by both Scotland men and Scotland women at Scottish Gas Murrayfield. It will be possible for fans to see it in person and hear more about its history by booking one of the stadium tours. Another important detail on the lower back of the shirt is an embossed graphic motif representing Scottish Gas Murrayfield Stadium, the historic home of rugby in Scotland. The Macron hero is embroidered in white on the chest, alongside the Scottish Rugby badge. The inside neck label is customised with a pattern inspired by the architectural features of the National Stadium on a navy blue background. The Scottish Rugby logo and the motto, "As One," appears on the right. The words designed in Bologna, written under the Macron logo, certify that the garment is conceived, designed and developed at the Macron campus in collaboration with Scottish Rugby Union. The inside neck sweatband repeats the word Scotland, alternating with the Scottish Rugby Union logo. Report by Ewan Payton. Evening Times Sport, August 7. VAR official apologises after drunken incident. Report by Mark Walker. Polish referee Bartosz Frankowski has apologised and begged for forgiveness after his arrest shame before Rangers' Champions League showdown with Dynamo Kiev, and explained why they stole a road sign. Frankowski and countryman Tomasz Musial were supposed to be on the VAR team for the match in Lublin, but were arrested for drunken behaviour by local police and replaced. The pair are expected to be dismissed by the Polish FA, and Frankowski, who worked at Euro 2024, expressed deep regret at their moment of drunken madness. He said, "I am still trying to find words that will sufficiently express how much I regret this incident and how sorry I am. I realise that with one such violation, I ruined 22 years of refereeing, ruined my entire career. It was stupidity, an idiotic fantasy. I don't even know what to call it. I should have calmly prepared for the match and not gone anywhere." As one of the police officers later told me, our prank was spotted by CCTV cameras, and they intervened. I would like to clarify that we were in no way aggressive. These were stupid jokes. We did not suspect that it would be perceived this way. We had no bad intentions. The prank with this sign was a stupid game. Now, looking back, I understand that it was not a very smart idea. It was a sign that was lying next to where roadworks were being carried out, and we were passing by. I am very sorry that this has happened, and on a purely human level, it was stupid, because I know that my unfortunate behaviour will cast a shadow on many years of hard work. What happened was irresponsible and unprofessional on my part, and I am fully aware of that. I would just like to emphasise that there were no acts of aggression in my behaviour. I did not break the law, and there was no unlawful behaviour on my part towards police officers or anyone. I was not charged with any offence. I was only fined. I sincerely apologise to the Polish FA, and I also apologise to my family. I understand the consequences that await me, but I hope that I will be able to rehabilitate myself. Report by Mark Walker. Evening Times Sport, August 8. David Irvin reports on another special St Mirren night in Europe beckons. Loud environment read the volume warning on my watch ahead of St Mirren's historic triumph over Valour. It is not necessarily a surprise for noise levels to surge inside a football stadium, but for it to begin around an hour before kick-off and not end until well after full time, well, that's special. There was something magical in the air in Paisley last Thursday. It was an unforgettable, you had to be there experience, one which many feared might never come. The procession through Paisley towards the stadium, the tifo spanning the entirety of the stadium and the historic result. It was a near-perfect night. Remove the sloppy penalty concession which robbed Ellery Balcombe of a clean sheet, and you are looking at a truly flawless evening. For St Mirren to progress beyond the third qualifying night, they will need to be near perfect again, with SK Brann a far tougher opponent than Valur Reykjavik. And the Norwegians will be backed by a noisy band of supporters in Paisley, something which ought to only further enhance the atmosphere. If the press presence is anything to go by, then there is already a stark difference in anticipation and interest from St Mirren's Euro rivals. There were no Icelandic members of the press inside the stadium last week. On Wednesday, there were upwards of 10 Norwegian representatives inside the bowels of the stadium for the SK Brann pre-match press conference, and they were confident. The Eliteserien club sit second after 18 league outings this season. They are in full flow of the season and have already taken a scalp in Conference League qualifying by unceremoniously dumping Go-Ahead Eagles out in the round previous. The first leg against Valur was afforded to be an exercise in finding full fitness ahead of blowing the club away at home. The circumstances could little be more different this time. St Mirren certainly have the quality to compete with Brann, but there will be less room for error, as was the case in Reykjavik, with the fallback of a second leg in Paisley. Tonight, St Mirren have one objective: keep the tie alive. Anything more than that is a huge success. The away leg in Bergen will be challenging in a raucous environment, packed with opposition support. So, if possible, doing some damage at home will be crucial, but avoiding taking a beating even more so. St Mirren looked fairly sharp against Hibs on Sunday and appeared to have quickly settled into the rhythm of the season. Against Brann, that trend must continue. Fail to match the pace from the first whistle, and the host could quickly be punished. Stephen Robinson has echoed his desire to not just make up the numbers in Europe. By defeating Valur, St Mirren have proven their credentials in taking the competition seriously. But the club would earn some serious kudos and cash if a triumph over SK Brann can be earned in the next week. That begins tonight, and will require every ounce of backing present in the win over Valur, perhaps even more with the standard of opposition increased. Last week was special, this week could be too. And another thing, Stephen Robinson has responded to transfer links to Celtic defender Yuki Kobayashi. The St Mirren manager has been linked with a swoop for the Japanese centre-back in recent reports. However, Robinson was tight-lipped when quizzed on the transfer speculation, and the St Mirren manager said, "I have been linked with every player in Scotland, so I don't pay any attention to that. We are well aware that Kobayashi is a very good footballer. For me to talk about another club's player, apart from in a good light, I wouldn't do that. It's not the way I work." St Mirren previously negotiated with Celtic to land Kwon on a loan deal last season, with the player and both clubs pleased with the outcome. Should there be genuine interest in Kobayashi, then you would expect Robinson would be in with a chance to strike a deal, given his glowing reputation with Celtic and working relationship with Brendan Rodgers. And finally, some major decisions have to be made by Stephen Robinson in his team selection against SK Brann. Mark O'Hara's absence is a huge blow, but there is enough depth in the squad to avoid it being a crisis. Let's consider the possible starting side, beginning with the obvious. Ellery Bolcombe will start in goal. Elvis Ono can continue to count himself unlucky not to start, but Sean Rooney cannot be benched. Alex Gojic, Marcus Fraser and Richard Taylor have formed a decent defensive understanding this season, with Alex Iacovitti in line for more time off the bench. There is no question Jayden Brown will begin at left back. I would expect the same trio from Sunday's win over Hibs to start, unless there are any fitness concerns, with Caelan Boyd-Munns deep, Roland Idowu on the left and Dennis Adeniran on the right of the central three. Up front it seems unlikely Toyoso Oluseanya will be benched, given his recent form. However, with Mika Mandrin back fully fit, he could start ahead of Jonah Ayunga. Report by David Irvin. Evening Times Sport, August 8. Peter Schmeichel pines for Celtic Euro nights. Report by Joe Donnelly. There was something paradoxical about Kasper Schmeichel's save against Erling Haaland that both defied time and made perfect sense. With Celtic edging the pre-season friendly against Manchester City 1-0 in the throes of their marquee tour of America, the towering Norwegians sought to restore parity on the scoreboard. A diagonal run broke the defensive line between centre-backs Stephen Welsh and Liam Scales before the 24-year-old fastened onto an expertly weighted through ball. He shifted his body weight to nullify Greg Taylor's late defensive stretch from the left channel and rattled a shot towards goal across the oncoming goalkeeper. We have seen Haaland score these types of goals time and time again in light blue, and yet we've seen Schmeichel make these fearless one-on-one saves with the same recurring frequency. On this occasion, the latter prevailed, prompting City's veteran commentator Alistair Mann to opine, "It's one of those trademark saves that the Schmeichel family have been so good at over the years." In the moment, the almost 30-year-old Kasper appeared to wind back the clock with a signature stop akin to those that grabbed headlines at Leicester City, not least when the East Midlands outfit secured the English Premier League in 2016. At the same time, as astutely observed by Mann, the Denmark international seemed to mirror his father's iconic figure between the sticks, cutting the same brave angle-narrowing shape that cemented Peter Schmeichel as a household name in the 1990s. Now, having reunited with Brendan Rodgers in Glasgow's East End, and with more silverware firmly in his sights, Kasper has no plans of slowing down. Given his old man did not call time on his own illustrious career until he was almost 40, the parallels between father and son at this juncture in their playing days are clear. Can Kasper match his dad's medal haul from here on, though? Schmeichel joked, "I've got a long way to do that. I think I'd need to play for another 15 years to do that." As it stands, Schmeichel has around 12 months to increase his tally, having signed for Celtic on a 1-year deal before jetting out to meet his new teammates on their USA tour last month. As outlined, Schmeichel featured there against Manchester City in Chapel Hill, a short wander from where basketball legend Michael Jordan cut his teeth for the University of North Carolina in the 1980s. And then he faced Chelsea and Notre Dame a few days later. Upon his return to Scotland, Schmeichel made his competitive debut in green and white in last Sunday's Scottish Premiership opener against Kilmarnock, where the Dane kept a clean sheet and his outfield peers put 4 past the visitors without reply. In the stands stood Peter, watching his son in what was an entertaining afternoon at Celtic Park. Said Casper, "My dad was buzzing when I signed. I think he sees a lot of trips to watch games and golf days. He works for the America broadcasters who do the Champions League, so he's keen to see Celtic Park a few times, particularly on European nights, and he says it's special. I have not been here myself on a European night. I played here in a friendly, and I snuck myself in once for an Old Firm game when I played for Falkirk, so I have experienced that. It was in the Celtic end. It's always different when you get to experience it. I've never been to any game where I haven't wanted to be out on the pitch to experience it. It's never the same watching on." In just 6 weeks, Schmeichel will have experienced one of the fiercest derbies in world football and the UEFA Champions League on the pitch as a Celtic player. With the return of away fans to Old Firm fixtures this season, 3,000 travelling Rangers fans are expected at Celtic Park on Sunday, September 1. And the Champions League's new group stage replacing league format, there's an element of the unknown about what lies ahead. Pulling on 20 years' worth of experience, however, Schmeichel is not only unfazed by the challenge, but savouring the chance to play on European football's most prestigious platform, the Dane having helped lead Leicester to the 2016-17 quarter-finals, when a questionable Atletico Madrid penalty sealed their fate and sent them home 2-1 on aggregate. Celtic manager Brendan Rodgers has spoken openly about helping his side make inroads in European football since returning to the Parkhead dugout last summer. Whether or not that's achievable this season remains to be seen, but with chiselled leaders such as Callum McGregor, James Forrest, and indeed Kasper Schmeichel filling the dressing room, the foundations of an aspirational side are in place. To that end, Schmeichel added, "I'm here to help. I'm here to help the team win. I'm here to help in whatever way I can. I try to make it very clear to everyone that if they need anything, just let me know. If they want anything, if they want to hear what anything was like, any kind of experience, you've just got to ask. I'll lead in the same way that I always have. That's brought me to be the captain of a Premier League club and captain of my country at the Euros. I'm not going to change that. That's just the way I am. That's just the person I am. I'm not going to change anything like that." Report by Joe Donnelly. Evening Times Sport, August 8. Josh Kerr on Olympic feud. Report by Charlie Bennett. Josh Kerr fears he will never race bitter rival Jakob Ingebrigtsen again at the Olympics after he beat the Norwegian to an Olympic medal in an all-timer of a 1500 metres final. Kerr finished second behind shock winner Cole Hawker, while pre-race favourite Ingebrigtsen slumped to a surprising fourth down the home straight. The 1500 metre final was billed as a straight shootout between Ingebrigtsen, the defending champion, and the Edinburgh runner Kerr, who beat him to World Championship gold last summer. They have been in a war of words for the past 12 months, with Ingebrigtsen claiming Kerr is scared of racing him, and the Scot shooting back by stating, "I dislike him," ahead of the games. Kerr won their personal duel, but both took an eye off Hawker, who charged through on the inside to win in an Olympic record time. Kerr, who won bronze at the last Olympics in Tokyo, is determined to carry on at 1500 metres, but fears Ingebrigtsen will not try to regain his title at the next games in LA. The 23-year-old has a big mouth, but has now been beaten in his last 3 major 1500-metre finals, and could well choose to focus on the 5000 metres, which he is also competing at this Olympics. Said Kerr, "I don't envy him running the 5000, that's hard work. He's obviously pretty dominant in the 5000. We'll see. I can't see him running the 1500 for a whole other Olympic cycle, but he's running really fast times, so that's not for me to determine. I'll be sticking to the 1500 metres. I shook his hand, but that was about it. I know that he would have been disappointed." Ingebrigtsen was back on track on Wednesday and won his 5000 metres heat. Pre-games, the Norwegian said he could easily beat Kerr if fit and healthy, but faded badly down the final 50 minutes. His stance towards Kerr softened in the aftermath of the race, as he offered an olive branch to his great rival. He posted on social media, "Well, I guess he did show up after all. My team always say that because you have a big mouth and is the one to beat, you have everything to lose in competitions. Today, Cole Hawker, Jared Nugus and Josh Kerr outsmarted me. They were the best guys when it really mattered, and I want to congratulate them all on a great performance." Kerr's reply underlined the rivalry between them when he said, "I've heard that he said something nice. I'll believe it when I see it." Kerr put on a brave face after winning silver, after admitting he only had gold in his sights. He went out and partied until 4 a.m. on Tuesday night to celebrate his achievement. By the time he was finished with his medal ceremony, drug testing and media duties, he did not head out into the city until 11:30 p.m, but more than made up for it. "It was difficult to find, but just a pint was good," added Kerr, who is one of over 1,000 elite athletes on UK Sport's national lottery-funded world-class programme, allowing them to train full-time, have access to the world's best coaches, and benefit from pioneering medical support, which has been vital on their pathway to the Paris 2024 Games. And he added, "There was a lot of champagne getting handed around, but I'm just a pint guy." Now the hard work starts for the next Olympic cycle, but Kerr is not sure how much quicker he can get. Ingebrigtsen set a searing pace out front and Kerr sat on his shoulder, waiting to strike on the final lap. It appeared Kerr had played it perfectly as he moved around the Norwegian to take the lead, but Ingebrigtsen responded by forcing Kerr out wide. Kerr seemed certain to hang on to win, but Hawker came charging through the gap on the inside to snatch gold in the final 10 metres. Kerr added, "It seems a long time away, Los Angeles. Coming away with bronze 3 years ago felt like a stepping stone towards the place I wanted to be. Silver is another stepping stone towards what I want." Kerr's time of 3 minutes 27.79 is a new British record, breaking the mark previously held by Mo Farah. Further behind, Glasgow's Neil Gourley could only watch and admire the pace of the leading group, and said he is motivated to catch up after finishing 10th. With Keely Hodgkinson winning gold in the women's 800 metres, this is becoming a golden age for British middle distance running, and he wants a slice of the action and added, "I wish I was more part of it. I have been on the fringes for a while, but I have not won a global medal yet. I think I can do it with a clear season without injury. We are feeding off the high standards, and I just need to do my part more. I gave it my all to add to Britain's success, but I am not there at the moment." Evening Times Sport, August 8. Leaked Celtic Adidas third kit is a surefire cult classic, says Joe Donnelly. A leaked image of the supposed Celtic third kit 2024-25 has hit the internet, and it is a surefire cult classic in the making. With the 24-25 Celtic home kit hoops making its official debut during the club's pre-season tour of America last month, and with the as yet unworn but now available to buy away shirt on store shelves, this season's third kit remains officially unveiled at this moment. But the image, reportedly coming from the same United States retailer that had the yellow and green Celtic away in stock prior to its reveal, shows off camouflage hues against a white Celtic crest, white Adidas badge, and white Dafabet sponsor. Moreover, with Adidas going retro on a number of its partnered club tops, such as Manchester United and a host of MLS teams, prolific kit leak site Footy Headlines reckons we are also in line for a retro-inspired Celtic kit this season. The yellows, light green and darker greens definitely align with the already released home and away kits for 24-25, while the Celtic pattern features on the long sleeve jersey's collar and the elasticated sleeves match the home top's similar design. Report by Joe Donnelly. Evening Times Sport, August 9. Todd Cantwell Rangers exit soon. Report by David Irvin. Todd Cantwell's Rangers transfer exit is imminent, according to reports in Turkey. The Ibrox midfielder had submitted a transfer request this summer as he seeks a new challenge away from Rangers. Philippe Clement had suggested the door would stay open for Cantwell to challenge for a spot in the Rangers' first team should he change his mind. However, it is now claimed Cantwell is close to finalising a move to the Super League with Trabzonspor. Should he complete a switch, he would link up with former teammates Borna Barisic and John Lundstrom, who both signed for the club this summer. The Karadeniz Gazette claim Cantwell held positive talks with a club representative in Glasgow, with a move to be made official in the near future. The outlet reported, according to the information received, a Burgundy Blue manager came to Glasgow by private plane the other day to meet with Todd Cantwell. The same plane returned to Turkey a few hours later. The claimants claimed that the meeting was positive and that the Cantwell transfer would be made official in a short time. Clement first admitted Cantwell had requested to leave the club last month, when he said, Todd Cantwell came to me in my office a while ago, and we have a really good relationship, so we talked for a long time to say that he feels ready for another adventure and challenge. I spoke for long with him because I think Rangers is a really good club for him, and I wanted to give him time. That's why in the last couple of weeks I did not speak about it, but he came back with the same request. I'm going to be focused on the guys who, in their heads, are focused on Rangers. Report by David Irvin. Evening Times Sport, August 9. Celtic captain McGregor announces retirement from international football. Report by David Irvin. Celtic captain Callum McGregor has announced his retirement from international football. The 31-year-old midfielder has called time on his career representing Scotland after 63 caps for the national team. In a statement released by Celtic, McGregor said of his decision, "I have made a decision which was very difficult, of course, but a decision which I feel is the right one at the right time. It was very important I spoke to Steve Clarke, and I did that this week to make him aware of my intentions. As I said to Steve, I just felt the time is right for me to move on from international football. It has been a huge honour to achieve 63 caps for my country, as appearing just once would have been a dream come true. So to achieve 63 and be inducted into the Roll of Honour at 50 caps is something I could only have dreamed of as a young kid. Throughout my career, I wanted to make myself available for Scotland at all times and whenever selected, give the absolute maximum possible to help the country and represent the supporters with passion and pride. International football has been a really important part of my career, where I have learned so much and achieved some incredible highs, that famous night in Serbia being one of the very best, and I have been blessed to share these experiences with some great people. Playing for Scotland always meant so much to me, and reaching 2 major tournaments will always be a source of real pride, and scoring at Hampden in the Euros in front of our fantastic supporters will always be a special highlight for me. Of course, like many others, I wish we could have gone further in these competitions, but nonetheless it has been a privilege to have played for my country on such a stage, and to have represented my country for such a long period. I have worked with some excellent managers, teammates and staff, and I thank them all for their incredible efforts during the time we have had together. I would like to wish Steve, the current Scotland players and all the players who follow me nothing but success for the future. I also want to give special and sincere thanks to the Scotland fans who have supported me so brilliantly during my time. The level of passion and commitment which our fans bring is second to none, and something which I will always remember." Scotland manager Steve Clarke commented, "Callum's consistency of performance and leadership qualities have been a real catalyst in the team's return to major tournaments. He has been a driving force in the middle of the park, and in many ways is a coach's dream. He is low maintenance, leads by example, and sets the highest standards every day in training and in matches. That professionalism and dedication has been a huge influence in our squad. We had a very good chat, and while I am disappointed to lose Callum's qualities, I can understand the rationale behind his decision. He will be missed by his teammates, the coaches, the backroom staff, and of course the fans. I would like to thank him for all that he has contributed and helped us achieve." Report by David Irvin. Evening Times Sport, August 9. Drumchapel United girls get new gear from Partick Thistle star. Report by Sandhya Suresh. Players at the Drumchapel United Girls Football Club have scored new equipment thanks to Partick Thistle star Amy Bullock. The midfielder nominated the club for a prize giveaway from Scottish Power. To celebrate its partnership with Scottish women's football and the Scottish Women's Premier League, the company donated 6 kits with cones, bibs, water bottles, and under-14-sized Puma footballs to chosen grassroots clubs. Scottish Power asked the captains of the top 6 Scottish Women's Premier League teams to select a community club they value for its contribution to developing girls' youth football. Amy said, "Over the past 10 years, the growth in the women's game has been incredible. However, when it comes down to training facilities, equipment and resources, there is still a need for additional support. For the girls coming to clubs, it is really important that they have access to kit like this. It helps create an inclusive and equal environment, which in turn makes them feel more comfortable to just go and play. Hopefully it encourages more girls to come into a club environment to play their football." Rosie Brown, coach for Drumchapel United, received the new gear at a training session supported by Suzanne Eden, a community liaison officer with Scottish Power. And she said, "It is important for us that we get more girls into grassroots football, that they can come in as young players and stay with us for a long time. We are a club that has access for all, and having training kit like this will help us encourage as many girls through the door as possible." Scottish Power works with both SWF and the SWPL to promote the growth of women's football. Keith Anderson, Chief Executive of Scottish Power, said, "We want to encourage women's football for both current and future generations and build a community of players that inspire even more people to play and enjoy the game. By providing training kit and asking those players at the top of the game to nominate a community club to receive it, we are making sure that everyone can benefit from this partnership, whether at the elite end of the game or those all-essential grassroots." Report by Sandhya Suresh. Evening Times Sport, August 9. Paradise is a golden Wester-Ross beach with millions of seashells. Report by Susan Swarbrick. Endurance cyclist Emmy Chappell is in love with Melon Udirgil, Wester-Ross. Where is it? It's a tiny clachan hidden away along a dead-end road on the Rhubarb Moor Peninsula in Wester-Ross. There's not much there, just a scattering of crofters' cottages, a beautiful golden beach, and millions of tiny seashells. But why does she go there? To listen to the waves, look up at the deeply familiar mountain skyline, and feel like she's a long way from the rest of the world. How often do you go? Not as often as I'd like, she says. How did you discover it? My mother's family spent their summer holidays in the 1950s there. My siblings and I were taken there in the 1980s, and I've been back a few times as an adult, mostly just on day trips. For a few years there did not seem to be a property you could rent, but now there is, so I'm hoping to go for a proper holiday in the next year. What's your favourite memory? I was a very free-range child and would spend hours on my own, exploring every inch of the beaches, headlands, rock pools and trails. Don't tell my mother about my rock climbing adventures on the cliffs. I remember really enjoying a treasure hunt my father set for us, with clues laid all over the territory we had got to know. There was one hidden in a cairn out on the headland, and another buried on the beach. It must have taken us hours to find them all, and 10-year-old me would have been very excited about whatever small edible treat awaited us at the end. Now, of course, it's the treasure hunt itself that is the fondest memory. I take only very special people there. On childhood holidays, I remember taking a huge stack of library books and working my way through them on rainy days. Next time I visit, I'll hopefully be midway through writing one, so I'll be accompanied by a laptop, some notebooks, and a very large number of post-it notes and my knitting for when it all gets too much. What do you leave behind? Melon Udrico is one of the places where I feel most reliably connected to my childhood self, so I'll be trying very hard to leave behind all the anxieties of adulthood. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that there won't be much of a phone signal so that I can ignore my responsibilities for a while. To sum it up in 5 words, peaceful, remote, sandy, mountainous, magical. And other travel spots I wish to list. Next summer I'm hoping to make it to North Ronaldsay's Sheep Festival, where visitors help locals to rebuild the stone dike that protects the island's famous seaweed-eating sheep. It combines so many of the things I love: physical exertion, island scenery, good Scottish hospitality, and I hope knitting. Report by Susan Swarbrick. Evening Times Sport, August 9. Stuart Hogg suffers injury blow, weeks after retirement U-turn. Report by Robbie Hanratty. Stuart Hogg's anticipated return to rugby has hit a minor roadblock, as reports from France indicate that an injury will prevent him from starting the 24-25 season with Montpellier. The former Scotland captain announced in July his decision to come out of retirement and signed a medical joker contract to join the French top 14 side. This announcement came just a year after he had initially accelerated his retirement plans. In early 2023, Hogg indicated he would conclude his playing career at the Rugby World Cup. However, he made the surprising decision to retire earlier in July 2023, citing a decline in his training performance with the national team. Following his retirement, Hogg quickly transitioned to a role as a TV pundit with TNT Sports and the BBC. Yet he later reconsidered his decision and rejoined the playing ranks. Just 4 weeks ago, he began pre-season training with Montpellier, who had narrowly avoided relegation after a challenging 23-24 season that required a playoff victory against Grenoble. Unfortunately, Montpellier will now start their new season without Hogg, who is expected to be sidelined for about 6 weeks due to a torn calf sustained during training. According to L'Équipe, Stuart Hogg will miss the start of the season. The 32-year-old fullback, who had retired a year prior to the World Cup, was injured with a torn calf during a training session after showing promising recovery signs since the team returned to training on July 17. The report further noted that the average recovery time for such an injury is at least 6 weeks, meaning Hogg will miss the opening match against Lyon on September 7. He had joined Montpellier as a medical joker for Anthony Boutier, who is recovering from a serious knee injury and is not expected to return until early 2025. Report by Robbie Hanratty. Evening Times Sport, August 12. Paris Olympic Games comes to glittering close. Under a slowly rusting Parisian sky, an Olympic Games that saw break dancers light up La Concorde, beach volleyball players cavort beneath the Eiffel Tower, and Snoop Dogg trot into the gardens of Versailles, clad in full equestrian garb, was brought to a glittering close at the Stade de France last night. It seemed fitting that the last word should go to the ubiquitous Californian rapper, albeit by video link, to fan the final embers of a heatwave games that started down the course of a rain-lashed River Seine, but ultimately succeeded in bringing the Olympic spirit back to the streets. After the soulless concrete bowls of an ill-conceived Olympic park on the outskirts of Rio and the COVID-enforced anonymity of Tokyo, Paris levered its iconic landmarks into front and centre of a Games to which the fans flocked by tram, by metro, and by electric bike. If Paris underscored one particular legacy for the at times turbulent 12-year reign of outgoing International Olympic Committee President Thomas Bach, it may well have been his overseeing of the expansion of the urban programme that once again provided some of the Games' most indelible memories. Paris, long Europe's epicentre of hip-hop culture, proved the perfect city to showcase that shift in focus at a time when precarious geopolitics, and especially the ongoing rancour with Russia, make the relevance of the Games far from certain, and the accent on youth more important than ever. Watched by an admiring Bach at stage side, 25-year-old B-girl Amy top-rocked and froze her way to the Olympics' first breakdancing gold, while Australia's Arisa True won a skateboarding event that included a Chinese competitor who was born 2 weeks after the conclusion of London 2012. Off the Corniche in Marseille, Britain's Ellie Aldridge made light of a lack of wind to zoom to the very first kite surfing gold, while almost 10,000 miles away, off the Tihupos Reef in Tahiti, a photographer caught the moment when a Brazilian world champion surfer appeared to walk on water. 100 years after the last Games were staged in Paris, fans roared the successes of home favourites, including judoka Teddy Riner and rugby hero Antoine Dupont. Simone Biles made a triumphant return after the personal turmoil of Tokyo, but along with the superstars came the inevitable controversy. Among the phalanx of flag-bearers ushered in to start the ceremony on Sunday were boxing gold medalists Iman Khelif and Lin Yu Ting of Algeria and Chinese Taipei, respectively, whose gender was impugned in an unseemly episode that extended well beyond the confines of the boxing ring at the North Paris Arena. Afforded the honour for Team GB were trampoline gold medalist Bryony Page and defending triathlon champion Alex Yee, two bright spots for the British in a Games that was speckled with silver linings. A plunge down the official medal table to finish beneath France and the Netherlands will count for little outside the confines of the British Olympic Association and UK Sport, whose near £250 million of funding for the cycle will be rightfully reviewed. But those who broke through back home did not necessarily need to step atop the Olympic podium. For every glorious Bryony bounce and long-busting Keely Hodgkinson charge, there were heroic near misses and heartwarming stories offered by the likes of weightlifter Emily Campbell and shooting mum Amber Rutter. A dark and at times melancholy ceremony drifted through a story of a golden voyager who purported to take the watching world on a dreamlike quest to the very foundations of humanity, but the thousands of athletes ringing the Stade de France were itching for a party. It was duly provided by Tom Cruise, who skydived in from the top of the cavernous arena, and finally, belatedly, bizarrely, by Snoop himself, who, having popped up everywhere in Paris for the best part of 2 weeks, reappeared on the big screen, safely ensconced back in the sun-kissed climes of California. The vast stage in the centre of the Stade de France remained empty. The athletes drifted slowly away. The chain-link fencing will be pulled down today and tomorrow, and its famous monuments will once again stand in glorious isolation. Despite a somewhat shipwrecked start, and more than a few discordant notes, Paris has given Los Angeles some act to follow in bringing the Olympic Games back to the people. Evening Times Sport, August 12. Report card for Team GB following close of the Olympics. Great Britain's rowers achieved their best medal haul from an overseas Olympics, while the athletes upgraded on their Tokyo tally at Paris 2024. There was disappointment elsewhere, however, as the cycling and sailing teams fell short of expectation. The PA News Agency is now presenting its post-games report on how a selection of Team GB's sports performed. Athletics. Keely Hodgkinson's lung-busting 800 metres triumph apart. Near misses were the order of the day, with Katarina Johnson-Thompson's superb heptathlon silver following agonising close calls for the likes of Josh Kerr and Matt Hudson-Smith. The sense of what might have been was especially painful in the pole vault, where medal hope Molly Coddery crashed out in qualifying. Still, 10 medals, 1 gold, 4 silver, 5 bronze, represents a significant upgrade on 5 in Tokyo, 2 silver and 3 bronze. Swimming. 1 gold and 4 silvers represents a climb down from a record-breaking 8 medals in Tokyo. 3 years ago, Team GB won 4 golds and might have emulated that here, but Adam Beattie, Matt Richards and Ben Proud were all denied by hundredths of a second. All 5 pool medals were won by males or men's teams, although Freya Colbert was within a whisker of a bronze. Kate Shortman at Izzy Thorpe delivered silver in the artistic swimming. Cycling. Was this the Games where Britain's dominance in Olympic cycling came to an end, or just a blip? They won 11 medals, only one fewer than in Tokyo, but a tally of 2 gold medals was the lowest number since Athens 20 years ago, far removed from the tallies of 8 in both Beijing and London, 6 in Rio and Tokyo. Emma Finucane, still only 21, took a gold and 2 bronzes to point the way forward to Los Angeles, but there is much work to be done. Rowing. 8 medals, including 3 golds, represented Team GB's best ever haul from an overseas Olympics. It marked a spectacular return to form for a sport which shockingly yielded just a pair of medals and no golds in Tokyo 3 years ago. Mum of 3 Helen Glover's dramatic silver as part of the women's 4 provided one of the game's most memorable moments. Boxing. A difficult qualification process ended in 5 of Britain's 6-strong boxing team exiting in their opening bouts. Lewis Richardson's gutsy bronze failed to deflect attention from a dismal Games by Great Britain boxing's high standard, and while there were plenty of mitigating circumstances, much improvement is required if the sport is to be restored to the programme for Los Angeles 2028. Equestrian. 2 golds and 3 bronze medals marked Team GB's best horse haul since 2000, and was all the more remarkable given the controversies surrounding Charlotte Dujardin's enforced withdrawal on the eve of the Games. Golds came in team jumping and eventing, but arguably it was the dressage bronze, with late substitute Becky Moody, that was most impressive. Diving. Team GB's divers had their most successful Games, bringing home 5 medals in total. The divers completed a clean sweep in the synchronised events with 3 bronzes and a silver, before Noah Williams secured the sole individual medal, producing a stunning comeback to take bronze. Sailing. Ellie Aldridge saved the day with a kite-surfing gold on the final day of an Olympic regatta to forget. A persistent lack of wind cancelled huge swathes of races, and often botched reorganisation failed to give a number of crews a fair crack. Emma Wilson's complaints after having to settle for a second straight bronze in the women's windsurfing summed up a difficult period from which the GB sailors emerged just about afloat. Gymnastics. Trampoline gold for Bryony Page and individual bronzes for Jake Jarman and Harry Hepworth only told half the story of a plucky Games from Team GB's gymnasts. An injury-ravaged women's team worked wonders to come agonisingly close to a medal in the women's team event, while the men also finished 4th. Max Whitlock bowed out in an emotional finale, but his teammates showed that his legacy is in good shape.
That concludes this week's edition of the Glasgow Times Sports Podcast. Please remember to subscribe to our channels, @Q and Review, and to tell your friends about our service.